Think Realty Nation, it's your host, Abhi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. Excited to be here with you today, and I've got to say something. I'm super excited for today's show. And I was talking with our guest yesterday, and every single time I've done a show with her, it's always been like the first show of everything. And she's back, and we're talking about basic real estate investing principles and building black wealth. There's a really big conversation that's happening in the country today about, let's face it, we have a major issue, and the fundamental challenges of race in this country is broken. And I want to make sure that we have a conversation with my good friend, the one and only Sonia Booker, about how we can, A, face those challenges head on, 2, what the fundamentals of building wealth are, and what does black wealth mean to her? So I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but I do want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's show, the Nevada Real Estate Group, turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. My good friend Marco Santarelli, he and his team do such an awesome job in providing the right research for real estate investors to really get going on their journey to building a portfolio and being that successful real estate investor. So, huge shout out. Realty Real Estate Investments is your premier source for cash flow investment property. Make sure to visit them at www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. First up, we've got Sonia Booker, and then second, we'll talk about the 3 ways to stay profitable, productive in a pandemic that we've got going on. So, Sonia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abby.
You got it. Man, it's been so long. You were the first that I interviewed for Real Estate Deal Talk, the first I interviewed for Think Realty Radio, and then again for the Think Realty video podcast. Now you're back. How are things?
I'm back. I know. How insane. It's been way too long. And then
it has been way too long.
You know, missing you guys, missing Think Realty, missing the conferences, this darn pandemic.
I know. It's been driving me crazy. I feel like I'm at home and my wife is like, okay, you are way too antsy. Yeah, she's like, you need to stop like moving around the house too much. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm happy to be in studio, a little outside the house. She gets a break, I get a break. It's all good. But
exactly.
For those of our viewers and listeners that haven't met you, which would be absolutely ridiculous, but if they haven't met you, they don't know who you are. Give us a little background on who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'm Sonia Booker, real estate developer, investor for the last about 15, 16 years. Started out, my first entrepreneurial journey was owner of an all-state insurance agency in Lilburn, Georgia. I sold that after 5 years and went full throttle into real estate investing. Acquired quite a bit of single-family homes before going into multifamily, which is the space that I'm in currently, and also in commercial. And just been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and love real estate and love to use real estate in my businesses as part of the business model. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I was I Think Realty coach, one of the first coaches for Think Realty, and just love the platform, love everything that those guys have going on, and how we're able to come together and help educate new and savvy real estate investors. I'm also the author of the best-selling book, Real Estate and Wealth, Investing in the American Dream. It's a step-by-step guide for those who are looking to learn about real estate and to take their real estate adventures to new levels.
Incredible. Yeah, you're such an inspiration for many new and pro real estate investors. You have it all together. You've done the single family, multifamily, commercial. You own a vault downtown Atlanta. You own a bank vault. Like, that's just like, how much more baller can you get? Like, you own a vault. Like, that's.
I own 2.
Okay, I'm done. It was good. This is a good show. Great. She owns 2 vaults. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
this is just great.
That's pretty awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's break it down for For those that are new investors, how do we get started? It can be really intimidating. We take a look at the pandemic, we take a look at everything that's going on in the world today. How do I make sense of it all?
Yeah, it's a question that a lot of investors are asking because what they are keenly aware of is, what happened in 2006, 2007 during the last real estate crash. And so you have a lot of people on the sidelines going, is this the time? Is this the time? Because they certainly realized how much they missed out, because of the fear or the lack of information than when the time was to get involved. And so always, what I've seen over the last few months, about January, I started saying to, investors I knew and myself and making it pretty public amongst my followers, like, start to pull back a little. The market is going a little haywire. It was getting back to the top of the market. And unfortunately, that's always when investors jump in at the top, and that's not, the best strategy. And so now what you have going on is this idea of hurry up and wait. It's a dynamic that you really have to. Real estate investing doesn't change. It's always going to be your fundamental. You're looking to buy low, sell high, or you're looking to make your money on the buy. I mean, all of those strategies when it comes to real estate investing are your 101 of the thought process. But what's interesting, and you have to watch as a new investor and a seasoned investor, is that being able to time the market and also being able to understand market. The real estate fundamental doesn't change, but every market is different. And you have to really dive in, understand the market, understand the trends, understand the things that you don't see, which is really very daunting, but that's also what investing is about. If you could see it, everybody would be doing it, right? And so a lot of it is going to be, at this point, 18 years later, there's a lot of gut that I have, when it comes to the market, when I can, feel the market, the timing, I can sense things that are happening in the market. It's really, really scary. My mentor, the late Herman Russell, was that way. And I used to think, how does he do that? And then now I find myself like having this post for the market, and it's really, really crazy to be that lined up, with the marketplace, that you kind of understand and anticipate what's happening. Although I'm not going to say I anticipated a pandemic. I won't take that credit. But I did know that something was going awry. I did know we were at the top of the market again, which is not where you want to start investing. And so now you just have to kind of, like I said, is that hurry up and wait and really time
Right.
the market to see what's the best time for you to get in, because the fallout really hasn't happened, and that's the piece. This is a good time for first time home buyers. Good time, with the interest rates being so low. But you do have to have a little caution as to the amount of inventory that's going to be coming on the market in the next few months.
And I'm with you on that. And that's also why I've been looking at secondary and tertiary markets around the country. I love Atlanta from a long term. It's a city that's always going to be here. The people flocking to this city. There's 16,000 drivers without license that just got licenses without taking the tests. So great city.
Scary, right?
That's a little scary. I'm pretty sure they'll go back and take the test. But that being said, Atlanta is a primary market. When I'm looking at, say, buying single-family rentals, I'm looking at your secondary market, something like an Augusta maybe, or a Macon, where it's a little outside of Atlanta. I can buy on the cheap just a little bit, and then I know that ultimately there's going to be that long-term wealth. In terms of looking at other markets outside of Atlanta, do you have any recommendations for that? How do you go about finding another market? Let's say I'm an investor. I'm like, well, I don't have the $300,000. I don't have the $200,000, but I have 80 that I can go get, or maybe I have 60,000 I can go get. Where do I find those deals?
Yeah, I think what's really important for me, and I'm a really big advocate of having a real estate, knowing what type of investor you want to be, having a real estate strategy. That is just going to be so fundamental, for me, in that most of the time you have all these sound bites, you have all these shows in real estate investing. It looks so, easy, and it looks so like I gotta be doing that. But people don't really realize there's so many ways to go about doing it. I mean, it's like 10 ways that you can start investing in real estate. And a lot of times what I see that happens is you don't really know what your goal is. Is your goal to build short-term, short-term cash? Because then that would lead you to a more of a primary market, more of a market that you can make $20,000, $30,000 on a flip or something in it. But there's a lot that you need to know that comes along with that. Are you looking to build cash flow, monthly cash flow? In secondary markets, whether it's Alabama, South Carolina, it's even great deals in parts of North Carolina outside of Charlotte. They're really in those secondary markets are great for rentals, but you have to understand who's the market for your rental. Are you okay with maybe doing government type of rental where you can secure your rental income a little better than if you need to depend on the job market, for your type of rent that you need to charge, and then what's going on in that job market. Of course, in Carolinas, you have a very, very strong market around healthcare, around technology, and so those jobs are a little bit more in place. But taking time to understand all of those nuances about the market, learning everything about the market that you can, in terms of who lives there, what's the median income, who's looking to move there, how much do they make, how much rent can you charge. So you have to really dive in and get that good understanding about the real estate market. One of our all favorite probably investors of all times is Warren Buffett, and when he talks about the amount of hours that he spends just researching one stock before making a stock purchase, you understand that you're buying a real estate investment, and the amount of time and the amount of information that you have to absorb just for that one property. And you do that for every single property, you get better, but you can't skip steps, and that's when it falls apart, when you skip steps. So you really got to get a good understanding.
Yep, that's right. And that's where I've seen a lot of investors fail too. Is they won't have the team, they don't have the advisors, sometimes they don't have the capital, and they'll jump from step 1 to 5. And like you said, it's a hurry up and wait game right now.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
have to be very smart with where we put our money. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. And that's going to be a really, really, really big challenge, considering they're like, I think Alignable did a study and they said 24% of businesses are considering closing their doors this year. And America was built on the backs of small businesses, right? And that's like a major issue for me, because it's a cash flow strategy. It's okay thinking about the future, but doing it smart. And yeah, you can hurry up and wait. And I think that makes sense.
And when you talk about like the job market and the businesses that are closing, people really have to understand this is the best time to start thinking about entrepreneurship too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all of that 24% that is going to close, because you're right there. This is the backbone. Your entrepreneurs, your small businesses are the backbone, and so this is a good time to take whatever you've been looking at, whatever that passion is, and start really looking at how you could build a business around it, because the world probably needs it. Like,
Yeah, no, that's right. And there are a lot of businesses out there in industries that have gotten really fat, right? Like there's so many efficiencies that you can drive within the industry and make money. And if you're an entrepreneur and you can think a little differently,
yeah,
man, oh man, I mean,
man, oh
the
man,
future is yours.
man, oh man.
Yeah, exactly. I can't, like, my head's exploding thinking about ideas. It's like, oh my gosh. So let's transition the conversation a little bit. You have been a huge inspiration in the world of Black Lives Matter, and especially pushing the Black wealth idea forward. And I've heard you say that a couple of times. What does Black wealth mean to you?
Yeah, yeah. That's huge for me, probably, for a few obvious reasons. I think what happens is when I look at the where we are in Black wealth, it's really very daunting to me. And when you look at things like net worth, I mean, net worth amongst Black women is estimated to be under $5. And those numbers are really, really very daunting. And as I started to really delve in, one of my missions became as understanding that that wealth gap is largely, from real estate, from the lack of real estate ownership. And, it's even as it relates to land, Blacks own less land now in 2020 than we did in 1860. All of that is, all of those things are very near and dear to my heart. And a lot of it is around just sheer um, understanding how to build wealth. But I also just, I love that I can talk straight to you and talk straight on the,
Yeah.
Think Realty platform that I really myself, I mean, I started this big charge in February before the pandemic around the Black Wealth Pledge. And there's a
Yeah.
blackwealthpledge.com that I wrote, and it was just something where it's like, this has to be kind of an anthem, around, Black people. But over the last couple of months or last few weeks in particular, I've really had to come face to face with the amount of systemic systems and racism that is put up as barriers for Black people. And so when you look at, things like, oh, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, or, why can't you just, buy a house? Why can't you just, make this investment, start this business or whatever? There's a lot of roadblocks that have been intentionally built around those basic things happening. And when you're a person like me, sometimes you're not in a la la land, but I really didn't think about it as much. I mean, I have quite a few white people in my family, from great grandfather. And so the way that I was raised to understand land and investing, and we own land, we still own tons of acres in Mississippi, out of all places. My viewpoint to why can't we just do this was, much like the world. And I have
Right.
really been very achy to understand. I mean, even when you look at systems like federal housing authority, and I mean, from the
Yeah.
color change and how that's becoming so prominent information. And I'm still waiting for the FHA to come out and dispute that really happened, in terms of how systems were designed to give certain people big starts. And when you have a head start and then you have 400 years of slavery, and you never really catch up, and it's not really fair to think that all those systems can be designed and Black people could just be, without any real help, where they need to be. It's like it's an
Yeah. So
impossible
it's
catch up, which I think
yeah.
has
So
bred a lot of hopelessness, that
yeah.
we're seeing come out in terms of anger, and it's being displayed in a lot of ways, but it's really real reality.
Yeah. I think the expectation that things should change like that is incorrect. And like you said, 400 years, and then the idea of, okay, well, now we're going to make all of these resources available, which
Yeah.
good that the resources are available, but right, it takes time. I was just doing some research. The Brookings Institute said in 2016 they measured the average amount that a Black household has in terms of wealth. That dollar figure comes to $17,150 on average nationwide.
Hmm. Compared to,
Oh, I'm looking at so
yes,
his,
the white, yeah.
So Hispanics are roughly $20,000. All families on average are at about $100,000. I'm looking for additional characteristics here. And white folks roughly a little less than 180, so we're looking at 171,000. So that disparity,
171,000. Right.
so that disparity is roughly nearly 10 times greater. So do
And
you
you
think
carry
that
a lot of that in your real estate. When you drill down to that, a lot of
that's right.
that is in equity in real estate. So when you look at the ownership rates, like at Blacks, just basic home ownership before you even get into investing or anything like that, it's
That's
less
right.
than 42%. And then even Hispanics is becoming higher than Black ownership, and that becomes
Right.
a lot of, yes, yeah.
Th-
Whereas
That that's I was
always,
so I was looking at this chart and I'm just like,
holy
this is
cow.
nuts.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
And
that's
then
correct. Yeah.
here's something else. The median net worth declined by more for black families, 44.3% decline from 2007 to 2013,
Yeah.
than for white families, which was a 26.1% decline. Which, again, I mean, it is just that in and of itself is an epidemic in the country that also needs to be addressed. And I think
Yes.
between your book, your teachings, your inspiration, and what you're putting out into the world, I think that's exactly the type of information that black families need to look up to and say, hey, we can do this too. And it's the mental shift. And for me as a
Mental
non-black person,
shift, but there are going to have to be some checks and some things
oh,
that
for
are
sure.
designed for the Black community, just as they were
Oh, for
designed,
sure.
before. And that's where, my radicalness, is coming out a little. My activism. I really never thought of myself as a activist, but having a business that was damaged by the riots downtown Atlanta,
That's right.
all
I
of
saw
these
you
things
holding
have
up the
brought
sign
me.
on Instagram. I
Yeah.
saw you holding up the sign. I'm like, what? This
What?
is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's very crazy. And, and then I have a 10-year-old Black son
Yep.
that, is like, we can't have any more George Floyds. And I think where we come to a George Floyd situation is just, it was something you couldn't deny. America could no longer deny the ugly secret. It was all on video. It was all
Yep.
right there. And
Yep.
we had, and it caused everybody to have to like deal with it. It was too in our face. Before it's like, oh, that didn't happen, or you don't want to believe it happened, and so you're like,
Yep.
I don't really have any evidence, so you just keep going. And
Right.
that weekend of those riots, and I feel like from the idea of having a Black son to being a Black business owner and having a business, it brought me in conversations that I otherwise would not have been in. I would have
Yep.
kind of been, on my sofa kind of going, wow, that's, crazy as well. And so it made me really want to use my voice and my knowledge base and information to really, speak to some of the systems, but also as systems are created to do harm, we could also build systems that are created to do good. And I think for me, that's where the vault and, some of the things that we're working on is really taking this conversation, but doing something about it, which
And I
is
think that's really powerful. And for
very
somebody
powerful. Yeah.
and for somebody that's like me, that's not black, right? It is my
You're
responsibility
not
to
Black. I thought you were Black.
like to understand
Yeah.
and to learn about what's going on.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
ignorance is no longer the answer. It's not, we can't just brush it under the rug and say, oh, well, I'm not black, so I'm just going to ignore it. It's, we really have to dig in, read, pay attention, be in the conversation, and really engage. And so that's why I really wanted to see your thoughts, and I really appreciate your insights and everything that you're doing for all communities, including the black community, to really help empower everybody to achieve what their new wealth can really be.
Yes.
And I love that about
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you so much. And I
Of
just want to
course.
give a huge shout out to the Eddie Wilson, president, Think Realty. He and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he was much like you. Like, I'm not Black,
Yep.
but I do want to understand. I'm really wanting to understand all of it, and I think that takes the responsibility is for all of us to come together and,
Yep.
no longer have the head in the sand and like, what all can we do?
That's right.
help the situation. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I mean, and last time, I mean, the only animals that are allowed to have their head in the sand is an ostrich. Last time I checked, we don't look like ostriches and we don't run like ostriches.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
well, cool. Sonia, this was a lot of fun. If we want to get in touch and say hi and stay in the conversation, how do we do that with you?
Definitely go to soniabooker.com. There's a free download to the 7 Basic Truths of Wealth Building there. Download that, start immersing yourself in that, and then just stay tuned. So much information. Sign up for the newsletters and everything, and just become part of the community. And that's SONIA Booker.com.
Awesome. Sonia, thank you so much. We love you.
Thank you. Love you much. Bye.
You got it. We'll see ya. Hope you're paying attention, taking some notes. That's heavy, but it's good for you. This next segment is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. So let's talk about the 3 ways to stay profitable, productive, and pandemic resistant. Now, this is an article by Tom Olson, my good friend Tom Olson of Good Success, on thinkrealty.com, and he mentions 3 important things. Number 1, communication. Communication strategies are changing. We're using Zoom a lot more, and there are a lot of different Zoom-like features, Zoom-like applications that we're using. You know what? At the end of the day, be aware of what's going on. Get on Zoom. Make sure that you protect it. Cybersecurity is a major issue, and also hold your team accountable. It's difficult sometimes, and I get it, right? You might be managing a team of 5, 10, 15, 20 people, but that's no excuse. You can still hold them accountable. Make sure that you do that. Number 2, you want to constantly explore new impact scenarios and revise your outlooks. Listen, at the beginning of 2020, we didn't expect COVID to have such a dramatic impact on business in the United States of America, but it has. So, adjust. And those businesses that adjust win. Those businesses that don't adjust will be part of the statistic of you closing. You don't want that. Adjust the outlook, adjust your teams, start seeing what else you can do, really hone in on efficiency, really drive that growth if you can, and start driving those bottom line dollars upward. We need to stay in the black here, folks, and that's one of the ways to do it. Revise your outlooks and adjust. Number 3, identify opportunities and point of action. If we're only focused over here and we're in the business over here and there's a whole world of opportunity that you're just not paying attention to, you're really missing the boat. One such opportunity for private lenders, for real estate investors, is to utilize the right technology to scale your business. Now is the perfect time to build custom tech, to build those custom dashboards. Maybe use a combination of Zapier and Podio and Pipedrive, maybe a CRM to grow and scale your business. While the rest of the world is asleep on this, you can really hone in and turn those dials, and you can really start to see your business flourish a little more just by achieving that extra level of efficiency. If you want to have those conversations, that's what I do. You want to get in touch, you can do so. You can get in touch with me anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. Huge fan of LinkedIn and Instagram lately, but LinkedIn for sure. So check out that article written by Tom Olson on thinkrealty.com, and I want to have a conversation with you about that because, at the end of the day, your business should be serving you. You need to serve your business initially, but your business needs to serve you eventually. And there's a very big difference between building a business and building a job. And my thought is that many of you just build jobs and not build a business. So if you want to build a business, use the right people, tech, and processes to get you there. If you're building a job, well, then we don't have a whole lot to talk about. Are you kidding me? Of course we do. It's intervention time. You need Abhi in life for this. That's why. All right. You want to get in touch, go to Abhi Golhar. Find me anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. I have a website too, abhigolhar.com. But I spend a lot of time on thinkrealty.com, so you can find me there as well. That ends the podcast for today. You definitely want to get in touch and continue the conversation. You know how to do that with Sonia Booker, the inspiration that she is for the Think Realty community, as so she should be for your community as well. And you want to get in touch with us, thinkrealty.com. We got a lot of awesome resources there too. This podcast is brought to you by Nevada Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com to learn more. Thank you, Realty Nation. It's been fun. It's been deep. It's been awesome. Until next time, happy investing.